All right, g'day, Novacashians. Welcome to your JetstreamAMA for this weekend. I'm very happy to be joined by Jets legend. It has to be said, fifth on the all-time Jets appearances and the goal scoring charts. Still, it's Matt Thompson. Tomo, mate, good to see you. How you doing?
Thank you very much. Am I fifth on the goal scoring list, am I?
Yes, apparently, according to what I read.
That's cool.
You're fifth on both the appearances as well as the goal scoring charts. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, obviously Griff is way out in front, but I think he had a few more opportunities at goal than you did, especially when you got.
Yeah, but he probably had half less games too. But anyway,
that's very true. Mate, Tomo, how's things going with the current global pandemic? How's it affecting your life? Obviously, to preempt sort of towards the end of our little talk here. You're currently in real estate, so how's all that going with the restrictions and everything at the moment?
Yeah, well, the quick answer is obviously it's different. Obviously, working from home and working in your own attire, I guess, so to speak, which is a little bit it's refreshing as well. But mate, to be honest with you, I've had my boys with me a week on, week off with their mum. And I've enjoyed the change, to be fair. Like, you sort of get yourself off the butt a little bit and go for a walk and make phone calls at the beach and take the laptop out. And I think I've just been outside, to be fair, doing a lot more work than what I have been, stuck in that office, because you sort of feel like you're a bit claustrophobic. The walls start to close in a bit, becomes a bit monotonous, so to speak. But the change has been generally a nice one. Hasn't been too bad on our end.
Well, we'll talk about your football career in a minute, but why real estate? What made you decide to go into that side of things rather than? It seems to be obviously Griffo sells home loans, so there's sort of a little continuity there. You line up their houses and he finances them. But what made you get into real estate rather than going maybe management or media or that sort of thing, like as a post football career?
Yeah, fair enough. I think I might have even fell into it. I think when I finished up at Thailand, a gentleman named Reese Thompson, who worked at Maitland Football Club,
the other Tomo,
contacted me. He contacted me and see if I wanted to play there, which I ended up doing, obviously. And he's obviously in real estate. So I'd been in town for a couple of months and was struggling for a bit of work and didn't really want to be sitting at home all day. So I said, look, what do you got for me? And he said, we can actually get you doing a couple of floor plans. So I was actually just doing floor plans a couple of days a week just to keep things ticking over. Obviously opened up a football clinic while I was playing at Maitland. I was doing Football IQ with Andre Gumprek for a bit. Yep. But after a couple of months being in the real estate, I decided to do my course. And after starting the course, I realised I sort of knew a bit about it. I don't know whether it was because I jumped from home to home playing football and invested myself. I guess I was on the other end of it this time and sort of understood what needed to be done, I guess, and took an interest in it. And that's honestly pretty much it. So 3 months before that, I had no intentions of getting the real estate. And in the space of 3 months, I was like, you know what, this could be it. And then that's it.
You're one of the many former players that used to play at the Jets sort of when they finished their football careers or they've left playing top flight football. They've come back to the area, in your case, Maitland, and in a lot of people's cases, Hunter Valley and Newcastle. What is it about the area you think that people who have a history with the club decide to come back and partake in the local competitions, and in some cases just relocate their family here and they're here for the duration? What is it about the area?
Well, I think you said it then. It was family. I mean, when I again finished Thailand, I had two boys. Youngest was just over 14, 15 months. Oldest was about three and a bit. So, your priorities change in terms of, the priorities change. And I guess when I was playing here for 5 years, I fell in love with the area. I didn't have the boys at that time, but you sort of look to plan different things. Football's not all about football once you got to that certain age, and you sort of want to put yourself in a lifestyle where you feel as though it's the best place to bring up a family. And to be honest, I don't think it was ever going to be anywhere else. I think even when I went to Melbourne, I loved Melbourne. I thought it was amazing. And then obviously left there. But I think Newcastle was always a place where me and my wife at the time, we always thought that would be somewhere where we'd probably probably end up. And I don't regret coming back here. Coming back in here, and all the boys go to Adamstown Public. They play for Adamstown. I live in Merriweather. I work in town. everything is here. So you know, it was a no-brainer. And the local football side isn't too bad either, so that helped.
That's always a bonus, and definitely cheaper real estate than relocating to Melbourne or Sydney where you grew up. So casting your mind back, where were you? Where did you grow up? Where did you start your football journey?
Yep.
What was your first, even as a kid? Where did you start playing your football, and who were your football idols back then?
Yeah, right. I didn't. To be fair, I didn't jump to many clubs. I didn't jump from club to club. To be fair, I was pretty loyal. So I started, obviously, when I was 5 or something, playing for Western Sydney out in Campbelltown Cobras. And I was there till about under 11s. And then played my rep football with Macarthur Rams. Mm-hmm. I was there for a good 6-7 years. And then from 11 to 17, I was there. And then at 17, I signed my first full-time contract with Parramatta Power.
Yep.
And I was there for 5.
Yeah,
and then I went to Newcastle. And I was at Newcastle for 5 and then Melbourne for 3. So, you know, I didn't really jump from club to club, and I pretty much got where I wanted to and enjoyed being there, and tried to stay for as long as I possibly could at every club I was at. So I don't think and obviously I went to Sydney and Thailand for a bit there, but I don't know how many clubs that is. Is that 6 since I was 4 or 5? Yep. So
right. Yep.
Not many.
No.
Not many. So obviously in Maitland as well. So, but mate, idol-wise, didn't follow football, funny enough. I didn't watch it. I wasn't one of those ones that got up at 2 a.m. and watched the FFA Cup games and whatnot. But I had about 4 uncles that all played. My old man played. It was always going to be something that was going to be part of my life.
Yep. And
in terms of idols, I guess, you know, I remember how far back I'd just been in the change room with my old man when he was playing. So, you know, it was in the gene, so to speak. So I think I was just lucky enough to fall into a job that I enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about Parramatta Power. You played 93 games for them, scoring 8 goals, all the way up from 99 all the way up until the last season of the NSL in 2004. Yep. I mean, going through and having a look at the rosters over the final couple of seasons, especially, you know, players that people will remember from the early seasons of the A-League, not just yourself, but Danny Vukovic and Pablo Cardoza and Michael Beecham and Ahmed Elric, Alvin Checkley. You even were playing with Griffo at that point. Sash Petrovsky. There were so many players in that. Andrew Durante in the final season, Ante Milicic, Fernando Rec come back and haunt us in that first season. And you guys did really well in the last 2 seasons of the NSL. I think it was a 3rd place and a 2nd place finish, and you lost the grand final. What was it about? What was it about those last couple of seasons? It seemed to be the Power sort of increase their performances and their finishes as it sort of the NSL wound down to a close. What was it about that club that really became successful?
Yeah, right. Great question. I honestly couldn't tell you, to be honest with you, mate. Like, going back, I mean, I was a 17-year-old. And I guess me jumping from school to full-time football, you weren't really at that age where you sort of sat back and sort of just try to look at the outside thing. Like, I was just there and thought, wow, this is good. I don't have to go to school when I get to play football. So looking at back then, that's how I sort of treated. And even when I left the club, I was still only 21, which is relatively young. But you just got to go through those players there. I mean, mate, they're quality players as well. Like Simon Colosimo was there as well, Clint Bolton. I'm sure was at Parramatta, and not even like Ante Milicic, who's now coaching the A-League, Macarthur District, Macarthur Bulls, I think it is.
Yep.
Mate, I sort of look at that and think, I think I was just in a generation where I just was at a point where I was just playing football because I was enjoying it more so than anything. It wasn't a job back then. I was lucky, sort of thing. I got to wake up and go to training instead of go to school. Life was a little bit different. My mates were still at school, and I remember that side of things, like having to change your lifestyle completely as well. That's what I remember about going back to then, like, going from school and being able to do things on your weekends as opposed to making sure that you're in bed by certain times and eating different things and very well disciplined. And I think, looking back now, I think some of those players there were just in their prime, some of the best players that we had in the league. Like I was lucky to be a part of a decent football club.
Yeah, which of them were? Which of those players do you highlight as being mentors? So you're obviously very young back then, helping you develop your football. Who were the players that really sort of helped you develop?
I remember Balogun being a player that was involved at the club. I'm going to change location because my parents have just come home with the kids,
No worries.
so we can go longer. But yeah, I remember Milan Blagojevic, mate. I genuinely thought that he was someone that was just a true professional in what he did, great at what he did, a top guy as well, like absolutely freakish on the pitch and off the pitch. And I think he's a player that sort of stands out to me while my time was there. I mean, I was good mates with Ahmed Ulrich as well.
Yeah.
Not so much out off the pitch, but, we were there from start to finish. We were both apprentices, both signed up at the same time. And I just remember just having an absolute ball at that club because it was a new club. Obviously, it only come on board. It was only around for 5 years. So, definitely something that I appreciated. So
obviously the A-League comes around starting up in 2005. So just talk us through how you ended up at Newcastle and were we competing with any other clubs at the time? Obviously, you're a young player. You've had a good start to your career at Parramatta. Where were your options at that point in time, and how did you end up signing for Newcastle?
As horrible as it sounds, I was very close to signing with the Mariners. And when I say close, obviously Laurie McKenna being there and obviously being at Parramatta as well. Obviously, I had a link there. And the truth is, I didn't want to fall back into how Laurie sort of saw me at Parramatta. So when I was there, I was 17. I was the young and, it was the young kid. And I had a thought that he always might look at me as the same young kid, which I didn't want anymore.
Yep.
So the easy decision was there. It was the same money. There was no difference. Same players. I knew the Mariners players just as much as I knew the Newey ones. We're all a lot of us from Sydney.
Yep.
Playing against each other. Even when the NSL finished, we went back and played at a few of those clubs. I went back to Marconi. Nicky Carl was there. Heffernan was there. Paul O'Grady was there. There was a couple of, obviously, Jets players and a couple of Mariners players that were playing there. So it literally could have been either or, to be honest with you. And no offence to Laurie, he's still an absolute gem of a bloke. And I don't think I've ever actually told him this, but yeah, I had sort of had a bit of a chat at home, and I just didn't want to be that 17-year-old again.
Yep.
I wanted to be looked at a little bit different. And then obviously John Paul DeMarini was at Marconi.
Yep.
When I went there. And then he obviously got the gig at Newcastle. So, and I became good mates with Nicky Carl, to be fair, at the time too. So, to be fair, that's probably the main reason why I ended up going over, because I thought the opportunities might be far more greater for me at Newcastle.
So, looking at those players that you had contact with, you almost ended up at the Mariners. You knew a lot of the players that were there. Cast your mind back to that first game we played, the first derby played in that Oceania qualifier, where merger puts Dura out for a season. Obviously, that's a game that not televised. No one's, only the people that were there, and I wasn't there, unfortunately, got to experience it. But that first game, and you guys had, these were a lot of these players are people you'd played with. So what was that game like, and that game is seen as the spark that sort of lit the F3 derby in the early years of the A-League?
I didn't really know, well, using those names, I didn't really know Nick Merger that well. But I remember the game being, obviously it was the first game we played at the new club. They were a new club. It was like playing backyard football. You sort of knew your opponents better than others. but it had that sibling rivalry as well, where you didn't really want them to get the better of you as well. So, and obviously straight away we were always going to be. It was always going to be that derby. The tag was always going to be there. So deep down, there was always a fixture, so to speak. Obviously, with years to come, that you penciled in. But yeah, the incident itself wasn't a nice one. You know, to see a teammate / mate, go through something like that isn't a nice thing. And I guess looking at it now, I mean, the guy's an absolute freak, Gerard. He's a freak, still playing, and he's an amazing guy. But I think from a fan point of view, that moment probably sticks out more to them than it does to us. Like, it's not something we really like to rethink. But I think from our end, it's like it was a dirty play and stuff them. And I guess from their end, it's like, we got you sort of thing. So yeah, I think it definitely did probably stem from that game more from a fan point of view, which was, look, that's part of football, which is great, which is why they still give it to each other this day, to be fair. So, and, you know, it would have been nice to happen a different way. Yeah. That's the truth. But look, it is what it is. And, you know, Jura's who he is now because of it. Do you know what I mean? So he's a rock, that bloke. So, you know, I'm sure he wouldn't want to go through something like that again, but football's football, and it is part of him. So I'm sure he wouldn't have any regrets.
And it was his second leg break, wasn't it? That wasn't the first time that he'd actually.
Correct. Yeah.
When was the first time back playing for Parramatta?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. I'm sure he was. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, just shows the measure of the bloke that he was able to come back and have such a long career.
Correct.
Us with Wellington.
We're still going
with New Zealand. Yeah, and still
going.
And it's good that, you know, 3 seasons later he was able to get revenge on the club and all the other players around that. So so you mentioned before, John Paul DeMarini was one of the reasons you signed for Newcastle, because you knew him and he was at the club. However, obviously things had changed around quite a bit and changed around in the first couple of seasons until Dutchie rocked up. So obviously JP didn't end up staying in that position for the duration. And Richard Money brought in, then Nick Theo coming in. What was the early parts of the Jets like, with constant, you know, changing of coaches and coaches' philosophies? It must have been pretty difficult to sort of get a handle on, and you know, there was a reason we were winless and bottom of the table after 7 rounds in that second season, causing Dutchie to get the job. What was it like from a player's perspective? Yeah,
look, I think when new coaches come in, I think it's a bit of it can be a bit of a cop out from players saying, you know, it's a new style, it's a new coach and whatnot. I mean, you're a professional footballer, so when a coach walks in and says, this is the way I want to play, it shouldn't take you that long to figure it out. Like, it wasn't as if, you know, you try to make me all of a sudden the fastest guy on the pitch when it was never going to happen, or something like that. Like, it's just a different style that, you know, you grow up playing the game and you're a professional footballer. So when JP came on board, obviously he was there for the club championship, and then we did how he did things. And then Richard Money came in, and obviously he had that sort of English style, a little bit more direct. It mightn't have suited certain players. But again, you know, it is what it is. You can sit there and whinge about it and sit on the bench or not play at all, or you can get the job done and do it how he wants. And we did the best we possibly could in the way he wanted to play. So, and then obviously when he left, Nick came on board. Obviously I had a taste of Nick at Parramatta, so I sort of knew how he did things. He seemed a lot more calm, to be honest. This time around, he was pretty chilled out and a little bit different. But I from a personal point of view, I sort of knew who the guy was, so I knew what to expect. And unfortunately for him, we just weren't good in the first 6-7 rounds. So, and again, unfortunate for him, they probably gave him one more week. He might have played out the whole season. So we played New Zealand, who was struggling just as much as us, I think, at the time. And I think we won 1-0 or 1-0.
Yeah, I think so.
Jado?
Yep. Sounds about right.
1-0.
Sounds header.
think it was just a matter of time. And to be perfectly honest with you, that second season and those players was probably the best team I played with. And you look back now, and obviously we went from bottom last to, I think we scraped into the fourth. I think, didn't we? We scraped into the fourth.
Yep. And then we'll talk about the Adelaide game in a sec. But
sure.
What was the thoughts in the playing group around when Dutchy was first off, he was starting as a caretaker just until they got another coach in. I think Dutchy mentioned that the club were talking to Frank Farina at the time, but he ended up performing well and getting the job full time. What was the thoughts of the playing group around that? Because obviously Dutchy was fairly new, especially in that sort of role. Why did it work so well? We got like you said, we went from last to finishing fourth and qualifying for the finals, and then next season went the whole way, challenging the entire season for the premiership before we ended up getting the trophy. What was it about Dutchy? What were the feelings around Dutchy at the time, and what was it that worked so well?
Sort of got the feeling in that year when Dutchy took over, it's sort of hard to take over a team a certain amount of weeks through. I think he just managed his way through that year. I genuinely believe that's what he did. He didn't really try to implement himself a great deal. I think he came in, and that caretaker was pretty much the term that he sort of took on board and said, okay, we're 1 from 7 now that he took over. We just work hard, and we've got a squad here, and this is the way I want you to play. And he knew the players, and to be honest with you, we had so many experienced players in that time. Like, we still had Nicky Carr, we still had Paul Ocon, Vaughan Coveney. He had a lot of personnel in that squad that could really do a lot from the pitch anyway, if that makes sense. And we had players that weren't at their peak yet, in Mark Bridge and Stuart Michalek and these sort of players who are arguably the best at their age at that time. So it wasn't long before the boys just felt a little bit maybe freer, less controlled maybe, and just had a free spirit philosophy and just enjoyed the game again. And obviously the result showed.
And speaking to Dutchy last week, he did mention you specifically that one of the things he did was moving you to a fullback position, which may not have been entirely to your liking. What was your preferred position? Because obviously you were referred to in that dreaded utility player moniker. Where did you actually prefer to play, and what was your feelings about moving to fullback at the time?
Okay, well, the preferred position is midfield. Let's get that very loud and clear, purely because it's just, there's more involved there. It's more exciting. You're in the mix both ends. You're not, I felt like sometimes you're with either side of the pitch. You're out of the game a little bit. Sometimes a game can be dominant down one side, and it's not on your side. It's a bit frustrating as well. But I don't really remember the conversation where Dutchy said, I'm going to have you left back. I'm sure I would have been shocked as everybody else was. But the truth is, that year it was great. For some reason, the way we played, I just remember having so much space and time, and no one was ever behind me. Everything was in front of me. So I guess I didn't find it easy. It was definitely a challenge because my mind was always ticking, because position-wise it was completely different.
Yep.
But I just remember having so much space, and I always had Mark Bridge in front of me. And I don't know why, but for some reason, we seemed, it just worked. I mean, everything Dutchy touched that year turned to gold. Like, I was only talking about this the other day, even with him and Milton Rodriguez and Vaughan, having two options up front, having Brandy and Kohler and Stewie as an option for a number 6. Every time he played one and we played the other one done well. Like, everything he touched turned to gold that year. And that might have been the year Griffo came back. Did he come back at the start of that year, or a little bit through it? I can't remember.
That was the following season.
Was that the following year?
Yeah.
So the year we won it, that was the year Joel came back.
Yeah, no, Joel.
Joel was there that second year. I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
I just remember he came back that year, and he just added another dimension to it himself. And like I said, we still had Jade North and Durrani there, and Stewie and Bridge and Nicky Carl, and bring all those players back, they start in any team or captain any team. So, I just remember. Yeah, going back to left back, mate. I can't remember when Dutchy told me, but I'm pretty sure I was shitting myself.
So that final game that we lost against Adelaide was a bit of a heartbreaker. What was the feeling of the playing group around that? Obviously, you'd had Dutchy for the remainder of the season. You'd really improved fortunes, and you'd done Melbourne at the last game of the final of the regular season, and whoever won that game was going to face them in the final. And we obviously also what happened to Adelaide in that final. What was the playing group's feeling about that? Was it a bit of an opportunity lost? I think somebody on Twitter mentioned that Angela Costanzo was. Costanzo, one of the, I can't remember, I'm getting him mixed up with Seinfeld. He was the main reason we lost that game. He was such a colossus in defence. What was your memories around that game, and what was between that game and the start of the next season? What was the playing group's thoughts around what you wanted to accomplish to sort of, push that away and develop?
Hang on, I've just heard my phone. It might be a work call. I remember being that game. Hang on, give me 2 secs, mate, because I need. Is this hurting you if I do this?
No, it's fine. I can cut it out.
Hang on.
It's all content.
Okay, all good. All right. The Adelaide game. Oh, it was gut wrenching. Yeah. I remember after the game because, like you said, you just went through it then. 7 games without a win. Melbourne, that last game was huge. We probably all felt that we were going to win it. I think that belief was definitely something that was there, and to lose that game the way we did, I think can't remember whether we dominated the game. I don't remember much, to be honest. I don't remember a lot. I just remember after the game, everyone being in the change rooms and sort of saying, shit, like from going so high for so long. Because I think, did we only cement the spot in the top 4 with that Melbourne game? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it came down, like every game was the final. Like I know it's a bit of a cliche, but, every game we couldn't afford to lose any points from that round 7, so to speak. So to get there the way we did, it was like a little bit of a fairy tale thing. Well, this makes sense. We're going to do this. And I think we played well in that game against Adelaide. I think we done well. I think we played well. I think everyone did their bit. It just didn't happen. And, I think Stewie missed the penalty with Vaughan, 2 players that, you'd pick any day of the week. And it was just one of those things. And no one really held them accountable. It was just a group effort that just didn't happen on the day. And it sucked.
Looking forward to the 2008 season, obviously there's an entire podcast series that you participated in, which was fantastic, reliving the whole experience. But one thing I wanted to specifically ask you about from a player's perspective, again, as somebody who was there, and I asked Dutchy the same thing. If we hadn't have lost that second semi-final against Central Coast and have to play Queensland the following week, do you think we'd have gone through? If we'd have qualified for the grand final first and not have to play against Queensland, do you think we would have won or lost the grand final? Dutchy reckons he reckoned that the continuity of playing and keeping everybody fresh, having that week off might have been detrimental, and might not have made him switch to a back 3 for that game, which seemed to confound Laurie.
Definitely, definitely. The formation thing probably definitely wouldn't have happened. That's a tough question. To be fair, I think Tarek is glad that we went to the Brisbane game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But mate, look, this is all
it's
a hindsight thing and hypotheticals. But look, they always say that a week off can be hurtful. Momentum is key. We started the game really well in that grand final. To be fair, we started really well. So did they not start well because they had the week off? Yeah, maybe. I think a lot had to do with the formation, to be fair.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, looking at that and the way we started that grand final, I think from the kickoff, it was us. I think we definitely did dominate majority of that ball. And yeah, I've never actually thought about it like that in the first 20 minutes into that grand final. But yeah, I guess you could say that the fact that we did play the week before sort of kept our fitness levels up and continuity, like Dutchy said, yeah.
I ask a lot of people this. What do you regard as the great... There's a lot of contenders for greatest Jets game, and most of them come down to the Queensland game to qualify for the grand final and the grand final. I'm of the opinion that the Queensland game is probably our greatest ever game. What's your opinion?
Oh, funny. The year before, I vaguely remember playing. I think we played Sydney and Central Coast, and then Sydney again, or Central Coast again. I can't remember what it was, but at home, maybe 3 times over a 4-week period. And I think we had 25,000, 27,000, and then 20-something, a bigger number again. I just remember those 3 games being absolutely insane, to the point where I actually took note of the crowd while you were playing. So very rarely was it something that I guess you grow accustomed to it, you get used to it. But I just remember during the game thinking, obviously Sydney being a Sydney-based team and Central Coast, so people were able to travel up to us and bring their supporters as well. So I just remember that feeling being like something that I never thought I could experience. So that game against Sydney where Broski got sent off and Cov scored at 1-1, I think Milligan equalised and for Sydney, and then Cover scored, towards the end after just coming on. I think again another magical change.
Yeah.
But yeah, having again just under 30,000 for 3 games in a space of a month, I think it was. I'm sure it was. I thought those games were huge.
And I think there might have been a game against the Central Coast where you might have scored a bomb from outside the box in that run, possibly.
Oh, I don't know, mate. I don't know. I really don't.
What do you regard as your best ever game? I have a sneaking suspicion it might be a game where you scored more than 1 goal in a row.
Yeah, I think the 3 might have been pretty. Yeah, what I do remember of that game is obviously scoring 3 goals, but that was the year we came last as well, which sort of puts a dent on it. Like, purely just looking at it from an individual on a piece of paper. Having 3 goals is fantastic. But even if I go back to the Brisbane game you're talking about, that was a huge game. That was a great game. I scored that. Actually, I scored the first one in that one.
Yep.
A change of position again from Dutchy. That was a huge game. But to be fair, there was a game in Melbourne at the Melbourne Derby where I scored 2 in that, and we won 3-2 as well. So I'd say that would be up there with a couple with the hat-trick game.
We could probably spend an entire hour and a half, and that's probably why the Dutchy interview last week went for about 2 hours. We spent a lot of time talking about the grand final. I just want to get 1 or 2 of your memories around a couple of things that happened in that season and around the grand final
Yep.
lead up. Signing Mario that season was obviously a controversial period in the Jets history. What was and Dutchy was very at pains to mention he was a nice bloke and all that sort of stuff. He signed the contract that was put in front of him. What was the feeling of the players around him when he came in, didn't perform, and then left? Well, obviously there was a bit of a down period in the middle of the season that year where we weren't going so well, and that seemed to sort of coincide with Mario being tried a couple of times in games, and then eventually Con got the message and said, "All right, he's not up to it. We need to can the contract with him." What was the playing group's thoughts around Mario, the whole everything that happened around him?
Yeah, look, I remember what my thoughts were, which was pretty funny. I'll tell you mine. I remember we'd signed him, then his stats came out in the paper, whatever, and I think he'd only played like 10 games in the last 4 years or something like that. When everyone's like, well, hang on, what's going on here? Then there were stories about that he was signed from a YouTube clip, but the YouTube clip was like 10 years old or something like that. So no one checked the dates. They just thought that was yesterday's videotape. So there was all these talks about what was going on there. And I kid you not, the first session he came, he obviously looked a bit overweight, right? But we played this, Dutchy had this session, was like a 20 by 20 metre square, 4v4 in the middle, one touch, whatever, I can't remember. But everything that came to him, he was flicking things, backheeling everything he touched. I went, this guy's incredible. Seriously, like I remember thinking, just didn't move as much as we'd like, but everything he came to him, he was flicking it and passing it, didn't miss a beat, right? And I'm sure that the other players were thinking, well, hang on a sec, okay, clearly he's got the goods, just need to get him moving, more so than anything, right? The rest is history. From that day, the fitness never come. Didn't really care whether he was there or not, to be honest. We never had a lot to do with him. Not like he was a character, like he was a bit of a larrikin, but look, mate, the answer's disappointing. Like it became a bit of a joke. I mean, Dutchy's probably sugarcoating a bit, but it's unfortunate for the club. The players don't care. The players don't care. Like at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's not the only player to come to a club that hasn't played or maybe wasn't as good as what people thought. Like good players have bad games, right? It is what it is. But the players didn't really look into it much. They just did their bit and played the game. And it'd be worse. It would have been worse for Dutchy.
I'd been interested to know whether his beep test results improved from when he finished.
I remember that. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Again, I don't want to go into absolutely everything. I've got a whole list of questions here, but a couple of things around the grand final. Your memories of the players' meeting the day prior to the grand final in the Coogee Bay Hotel.
Yep.
Where Jado and a couple of the people in the leadership group got everyone to sit down. Obviously, Dutchy's said it was a suggestion from one of the Knights players, I believe. I think he said it was Adam McDougall. But what were your memories about that and all the stuff around the grand final week? How was that helping or hindering your psychology with such a big game coming up?
It's funny, like it's very rarely do you get 20 or so blokes in one room. For first of all, shutting up and not talking any bullshit, and it was a serious conversation. But the one person that I remember talking that sticks out in mind was Noel Spencer. Like he was a player, obviously an ex-Mariner as well, but the way he came into the club to lend his expertise and his footballing ability. Like I know he didn't play as much as what he would like, but he was not only, I felt, as a quality player, but someone that just every time he done something, every time he spoke, people paid attention. And that room, I remember where we were, I remember where we sat, I remember where he was sitting, what we were wearing, and all of the above. And I remember Cover saying a few things, and obviously everyone had their say. But for me, when he did, it felt like that everyone just stopped breathing for a good 2-3 minutes and really listened. And, everyone had a different reason why they wanted to win that game or how they pictured it, hopefully, at the end of it. And, obviously Trura and Jada were just, Trura and Griffo were telling me that I was watching the cricket before, but obviously I couldn't really switch back on from the night before. But, that I remember very well, but I also remember, I don't know whether this is another one of your questions, but I remember leaving Adamstown Football Club the day before on the bus, and people were lined up all along Newcastle Road, up to Wallsend, and out towards the freeway. The cricket game stopped in Wallsend. I remember both cricket games stopped on east side, stopped, turned and clapped. Yep. And we were just like, what the F? To be honest with you. That's what we're all thinking, like, wow. And I'm not talking just Adamstown Football Club, Glebe Road, and then it finished. It was the whole way to the freeway. And then on the freeway, the cars driving past as well. So people must have obviously parked their car on the side of the road, did a bit of a wave and finished their beer and then jumped in the car and followed us, sort of thing. So, the whole, literally, it wasn't just the 90 minutes. It was the 24 hours before it that was massive, to be honest. And something something you will tell everybody that you know. To be fair, when people ask, when people go, "What do you remember?" That's definitely something that I still tell people about.
A funny incident that I didn't ask Dutchy about last week. It was a question that I somehow skipped over, but there was a incident with a security guard in the bus on the way into trying to get into the ground.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he pulled up at the gate, and the guy was like, "Mate, where's your accreditation?" And Dutchy's like, "Mate, we're the team. We're like Newcastle Jets." I'm assuming that this is what he said because we're all on the bus, and we could see him just standing in the way on his chair, going, "Look, mate, I can't let you in. Like, you need accreditation." Dutchy, I'm sure, at that point just went, "Mate, you're an idiot." Like, in his own words, of course, colourful words, and I'm pretty sure he picked up his chair and threw it into the bush because we drove past this bloke and we're like, "Mate, like, we're not a random group of guys. There's 20 of us in kits." And I don't know what he was thinking. He clearly thought he was just doing his job, to be fair. I think he got sacked after that day. He's never been a security since. But I'm pretty sure he found his chair and sat back on it. But, yeah, we weren't allowed into the ground. Wouldn't let us in.
How long were you sitting out there for waiting for this argument to
finish? To be honest, it seemed maybe a minute. Like, I don't think it took Dutchy long to really go, "Mate, are you effing serious? Like, just step on the bus and have a look yourself. Like, whether Newcastle," I'm sure he would have said, "whether Newcastle Jets were about to play the grand final. Look at the signboard, we're them," sort of thing. But, yeah, the chair got thrown into the bushes, mate. I remember that.
I think it was pretty soon after that season that they started painting Newcastle Jets all the way up the sides of the buses. So that's even
just to make
it
to help the security guards.
Yeah. Another story that comes out in the Championship Chronicles, and I asked Dutchy about it last week, was the visit from the police officer in the lead up to kickoff in the dressing rooms before the game, signing the jersey for his brother that had passed away.
Oh no! Now I feel bad.
You don't remember that?
Was he dressed in police gear?
He was a policeman. He knocked at the door. I don't know what the time period was, but you were in the changing rooms, and apparently Mark was not going to let him in until he saw he was in uniform. And Dutchy and Mark had a bit of a discussion as to whether to bring it to you guys,
right?
Whether that was going to be positive or negative. And
sure.
The policeman came in. And apparently, his brother had only just passed away, and his dying wish was to be buried with its orange Jets jersey. I was just going to ask you what your memories about that incident were. But,
mate, look, to be honest, I know this sounds horrible. I could have been getting treatment or in the bathroom. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember that moment, and clearly them having a good discussion about whether it was going to be suitable. I know that sounds horrible now. But yeah, obviously they kept it close to their chest, and I actually don't remember it. Don't remember it happening. I might not have been in the room.
Yep. Okay. But yeah, from what Dutchy said, everything went quiet for a couple of minutes, and then
would make sense.
It got signed.
Would make sense. There you go. Yeah, right. No, I don't remember that.
All right, no problems.
Sorry.
No. That's fine. And not everybody's in the room at the same time, so that's okay. So, in that game, final minutes of the game, the Holland incident and the final whistle. What were you? Obviously, you'd gone off at that point, and you were on the bench. Did you actually see the handball? And how long did it take you to crawl your way from the bench onto the field to celebrate with everybody? Because I think memories I have from your quotes from the podcast and the Championship Chronicles was you were absolutely stuffed.
Yeah, I was.
I
think, Nigel Bogard cooked me twice in exactly the same spot. And I couldn't move. I was gone. And I remember icing it on the bench and being in pain. But I tell you what, it's amazing. I didn't feel it for about 5 minutes, obviously when the full-time whistle went. But to go back to Rick James, I didn't see it. I don't think it was something that many people did, other than maybe the 7 or 8 players that were out there, Nick, close to it, to be honest.
Yep.
I don't think it came over the big screen. I don't think we all knew. Obviously, there was a shout for handball.
Yep.
Half of us didn't know what was going on. Obviously, the game stopped for a good probably 2 minutes. I think that's when Vuka got sent off. And obviously, the full-time whistle pretty much went 30 seconds later, maybe, was it? A minute later.
When Jankovic gave a goal kick, and then he was coming down, and
there you go.
Full time.
Right. So I remember the corner happening and thinking, oh no, he and Booker running up, of course. Again, I think he was up for a free kick just before that, to be honest. And then came up again. I thought, oh no, this is it. This is the end of the game, sort of thing. And then obviously the commotion, and we're not really sure what was going on. But no, the full-time whistle was relief, I guess. And even if I go back to the year before, maybe there was a part of that. There was a few Bays obviously still involved in that team there. But yeah, like we worked our butts off. Like the year before, 7 and down, whatever it was, and not a game, and missing out the year before, and then obviously being very successful that year and being very competitive and doing well at it. It was our turn. It was our bit of luck that we needed, and I felt as though that the change in tactics was definitely something that it really did work. And I don't know whether Dutchy ever told you this, but the training that we had the day before we left, I don't know, the day before we left or the day we left, we were doing our formation and we were shit.
Yep.
And we were arguing with everybody, and with Dutchy as well. And he was chatting to everyone saying, look, just, this is what we're going to do. Like, it'll be fine. Like, it'll work. And we're just like, why? Why now?
Yep.
Why try and be clever now? Like, we're just going, why? We were shit.
Yeah. We
were struggling. And we were all arguing. And yeah, and Dutchy, to be fair, just went, no, like, this is going to... And looking at, I guess that's why he's the coach and we're not, looking at the games against the Mariners previously, like, we did dominate them a lot. Even the game that we won before them, obviously, we beat them well, but it was a closer game. Like, they were still in the game and whatnot. And, you got to go to the 3-0 drubbing. They absolutely smashed us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what stuck in his head, that game itself. So, if we hadn't have played against the Mariners, if we hadn't played against Brisbane and then played against the Mariners in the final, they would have had the momentum on top of the 3-0 drubbing that they had against us. So, look, grand final, mate, it was a fantastic feeling. The cork disappeared for about 10 minutes, and then I just remember, I was in all sorts after that. Yeah.
Did you end up at Fanny's and when you got back to Newcastle, or were you still sore?
No, I ended up at Fanny's. Yeah, we went from Adamstown to the Wests.
Yep.
Then we went. Oh, hang on, was Fanny's open?
Yeah. I think you guys.
I don't know how long.
I think you guys had a resident.
Yes, we did. We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we went there, and then I was home after that. But yeah, I know a lot of boys weren't.
Yep. No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, massive highs that season. But pretty soon after that, after the grand final had all finished, everything was starting to go downhill with regards to contract negotiations with people, and we ended up losing both. We ended up losing Jura, we ended up losing Stewie, we ended up losing Mark. What was going on with the players that remained? I mean, obviously 2009 season didn't end well, didn't go well at all. Could you see the seeds of that early on, or was it a combination of factors, or was it mainly down to just losing those players and not being able to replace them effectively?
Yeah, well, that's what it comes down to. I guess you lose, and we're not talking just squad players. Like, you're talking about Mark Bridge again, a grand final winner, scorer. Stu Michalek, best midfielder in the league.
That is up for debate. That is a long-standing Jets joke that Joel actually.
Griffo is, yeah. I don't know how that is. But yeah, and then to lose Jura, like that's your middle, like straight through the spine. Like Jura, Stewie, and Mark, and I was. It was a sour end to what was a good season, a great season. Like, obviously, the final happened, and after celebrations died down, to go to the realisation that you were losing those sort of players, yeah, it sucked. I mean, it happens in football, like players sign somewhere else. But I don't know. I was probably at that age now too, where I sort of felt like that enough wasn't done to try.
Yeah.
to get them. And the only reason I say that is because 2 years down the track, I was in a similar position.
Yeah. It was literally my next question. It was literally my next question. How you saw how those players got treated then affect how you had your negotiations with the club when it came to re-signing or not?
Well, mate, I don't have any problems in saying this whatsoever, and you've got to swallow your pride. This is the truth. Like, I wasn't offered a contract. So you can't stay anywhere where you're not offered something.
Yeah.
So I then went and explored Mariners, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't ring them myself. I had a choice, but it was there again, and Laurie was it. And say no again to him, but yeah, like I didn't get offered anything. So when I finally got offered a contract, it was then I went to them and said, "Look, I clearly not wanted here." That's when they put in the offer, which they knew wasn't
enough
where it was.
Yeah.
But funny thing was, if they had put it towards me, 2 months earlier, I probably would have jumped at it.
Yeah.
Like I look at it and think, I didn't want to go. Like that was a great year. I scored 8 goals. Bridgie was there. We had a great season. Well, when I say we had a great season, we had a good season. We got knocked out by Wellington.
Yep.
In the final, but semi-final. But that was another good season after a disappointing one, obviously with coming last. Like to go through that. And I just remember I was trying to do Newcastle favours because people were asking me how negotiations were going, and I would say, yeah, going well. And I guess I was covering my own butt a bit because it was a little bit of embarrassment, but there were none.
Yeah.
I'd say, oh, yeah, we're having a chat. Yeah, we're talking about it. But then I thought, hang on a second, there are none.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And then people started to comment, which I don't really pay much attention to. It is what it is. And I thought, well, if they only knew, they would understand. And then I got offered something that was great. And then I told Newcastle what it was. And I said, look, I don't expect you to beat it at all. But at the moment, it's something or zero. Or zero. So I'll take getting paid. So, and look, mate, there was no hard feelings with me leaving Newcastle. It's just you sort of wish things could be done a little bit differently. And yeah, I don't regret the move.
Yep.
At all. I know that sounds horrible from some Jets people, but
no, I mean, considering
I was probably at that age
at the time, that was entirely understandable. And like, I don't think from what I remember, and I was fairly heavily involved in the active support during that time, I don't remember there being any ill feeling towards you because we knew what sort of shambles the administration was in at the time. So I think it was pretty close to when the whole Con being out and Nathan being in, it was sort of around that sort of time period as well. So yeah. So obviously it was a big, before we get to any more information on you leaving for Melbourne, one of the questions that was asked was your feelings around being given the captain's armband. What was your feelings around that? And obviously at that point in time, you were far and away the player that had been there the longest and the most games. Another question that someone had posted that you had only missed one game in the 5 seasons you were there. You were here.
Yeah, right.
And that was because of suspension. So what were your feelings around getting the captaincy? And what was your secret to being so reliable with regards to fitness? And I think the Gary, the Dutchy moniker was good engines. That was something you had always been been tagged with. What was your secret to being so fit and so reliable when it came to being?
I don't know. I mean, we'll go to the no. No, look, I got no idea. I took care. I did take care of myself. Like I didn't really do much outside of the football, more so than anything. Like I was pretty switched on. I didn't sit there and eat lettuce or drink water constantly, but I just took care of myself, and I was lucky too, mate. Like people are more professional than I was that, tripped over shoes and just grass got them injured. So I was lucky to I was fortunate enough to have a season where I wasn't breaking down. You know, I genuinely believe that some people just have that body type that they just unfortunately doesn't. You know, yeah. I don't know. It's I was lucky. I'm gonna bring it down to luck, because there were definitely people that were more professional than I was, and you know, more strict on their diet, or more strict on training, or more strict on stretching, and all of the above. So, but I'm not going to pretend that I did all that, and that's why. So, yeah, bring it down to luck. But the captaincy thing, mate, it was great. It was feeling. I was there for 4 years. I knew the club. I knew a lot of people around the club, in the town as well. So, to wear the armband for Newcastle was an amazing feeling, and yeah, it wasn't any different from my end, but it was a nice feeling to be recognised as a leader.
And getting back to the Melbourne Heart move, what was was there any sense of hesitation joining a brand new, because it was obviously back before, this was in their first season. They announced you in November of 2009, I believe, couple of months before the season finished that year, and they were a new franchise back then. How was there any sense of hesitation going to a new club where you didn't have all these things set up, training bases and processes and administration? And what did you find the differences between the two clubs when you moved from Newcastle to Melbourne? What did you find the difference between the two clubs with regards to training, professionalism, or culture, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was at Newcastle for a while to see it all. To be honest with you, like, you know, when you're at a club for a long time, you see a lot of good things, and you see a lot of things that you might not necessarily appreciate as well. So, I guess towards the end of my time at Newcastle, obviously, we just touched right there, like how things could have been maybe dealt with a little bit differently as well. And not just with me, I'd seen it with other players as well, and that happens at all clubs. But it's definitely something that I was getting to an older age where you're a little bit more aware of things that were happening.
Yep.
And I guess a new start at a new club, like the feeling I got when I signed with Newcastle, no different, was another exciting feeling. Like I signed with Parramatta, it was a new club. Signed with Newcastle, new club, and I got the opportunity to do that again in a different city. And to be fair, I remember going to my first meeting at Melbourne, and I had John Aloisi sitting beside me. I had Josip Skocko, I had Michael Beecham, I had Wayne Shroy, I had Simon Colosimo, Clint Bolton, Dean Heffernan. We weren't short. It was like I was sitting in a national team setup, and all of a sudden I was that 17-year-old again. And it was a bit wiser and a little bit more confident. And that was probably at that point where I went, you know, this is going to be a big club, or they're at least got players here that can push, you know, what they believe needs to be done behind the scenes to make this club great, because they've lived in it. Yeah. Like obviously Johnny was at the end of his, Josip was at the end of his, but you know, to have all those other players around as well. I just remember thinking it was an exciting time.
Yeah, there was a great sense of anticipation.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So you did mention earlier playing for a short stint over in Thailand. How did that come about, and how did you find the experience? Was it purely monetary based, or purely for experience? What was the reason behind going to Thailand?
Again, it was an offer that was put on the table with not a lot of other options to go with it. So when I left Sydney, as soon as I left Sydney, there was an option to go and obviously negotiate with a Thailand club, which, to be fair, was the only one I was sort of discussing with at that time, and thought now's probably a good opportunity to try something different again. And to be honest with you, it happened in the space of about a week.
Yep.
Like, it happened pretty quickly. They contacted me. Numbers were discussed within 3 hours via email.
Yep.
then they said, okay, when can you come? And it was like 4 days later, and said we want to do a medical. I was there for 3 days, and that was it. I didn't even come back home. I had to send for. Well, I had told my wife at the time with the 2 boys, you need to pack the bags and come over.
And
so,
how did you find it?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah, it was a great time again. Something different, something unique. Funny enough, Australia's very structured, and I used to get frustrated about time and wear this shirt and what this time. And it was, to be in that sort of environment for a majority of your career, and then to go to there where there was no structure, zero. I found that hard.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for, sort of thing. So, but yeah, it was a new experience and something that I definitely enjoyed.
There was a newspaper report I saw when you were still captain at the Jets. I think it was before the Melbourne Heart move was announced. I think it might have been mid-2009 where you were involved. There was a newspaper report you were talking to a club in China. How close do you remember that, and how close did that deal come to actually coming off? And was there any other overseas opportunities that you might have been looking at but didn't like the China stint didn't end up happening?
Yep.
And was it
you
were looking at?
I went to China. Just trying to think when it was. Branko was the coach. That was just before the last season, possibly. Yeah, I think it was. And I was over there for a bit, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was actually the first time I always thought that it didn't matter what you got paid. Didn't matter. Because I know I didn't have my boys at the time. So, yeah, it was...
too much of a culture shock or not enough?
Yeah, it was. I felt like it was a bit half done too. Like when I went there, I got put in... Yeah, I just don't think the planning of it was done quite the way I liked it.
Yep.
I sort of needed to know what was sort of going on because it wasn't going to be just me that was moving there. Like I was taking my partner at the time, so there was more to it than just me.
The whole package sort of sounded.
Yeah, of course. And I remember 3 days before the end of the trial, I was like, you know what, I'm done. That's it. No, I went and stayed at the Shangri-La for 3 days and stopped answering their calls, and they were saying, no, you need to come back because we want to sign. I said, look, it doesn't even matter. And that's how the conversation went.
Yeah.
I come home.
And so were there any other overseas options that were on the table at various points that never came off?
Yeah, I was at Sydney and had an opportunity to go to Malaysia, and Scott Barlow said he didn't want me to go, so I hated him for that. I was on $400 a week.
Time at Sydney.
I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. Couldn't believe it. I was on an injury replacement contract. There for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I had 5 weeks left or something, and I had an opportunity to go to Malaysia, and he said no because he wanted me to sign for the rest of the season on the same money, and I just didn't understand why. I said, to me, he was interfering with my livelihood. It wasn't just about Sydney FC, and that was probably something that when I look back, I wasn't a happy person. Especially you mentioned his name before. Actually, it doesn't matter about names. But when you get told that I'm not going to stand in your way if something pops up, and then to get told that they're standing in, then 2 minutes later they're standing in your way. So, I wasn't. Learn from your mistakes, I guess, too. Touch a nerve there. Yeah, I just remember I wasn't a happy person at that time, and I remember thinking it wasn't their life to do that to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a look at some other questions. I'll get into there's 10 questions that I'll get into in just a sec. But what players do you admire that are currently in the game at the moment? What are some players that you really like watching that are around in football today?
Well, obviously, I take a liking to the Jets boys. I watch them more so than anyone. I think Steve Ugarkovic is definitely a player in the last couple of years that has just gone from he's gone from a squad player to someone that just should be picked every day.
An absolute.
I think. Yeah, he is. I don't know him personally, to be honest with you. I don't know what he's like. I've got no idea. But yeah, I just sort of I like the way he plays. I don't think he carries on. His demeanour on the pitch is what I appreciate in a player. And I think the Newcastle people respond to that. Yeah, I think he's definitely someone that I believe is sort of I don't know about. I won't say international material, but I definitely think he's definitely someone that the club would have as a captain and a leader for a very long time now.
And he's definitely someone that should be in the mix for Socceroos at some point.
How old is he? I don't even know how old he is.
Mid-20s, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any overseas players? Any of the big leagues play? You watch
don't follow any overseas league at all. Yeah, the answer is no. I don't have a team. I don't have a player.
Yep.
And yeah, mate.
Yep.
End of. Don't have one for you.
All right. Well, this will be this can be over your entire time you spent at the club. There's at the moment what do we call it? Whenever a player is signed for the club, the first thing to do as part of their bonding is they need to get up and sing a song.
Sing a song.
Did that come in around the time you were at the club, or that might have been slightly after? What was how did the team at the time, if you obviously didn't get up and sing a song,
I didn't.
What was the welcome for new players? How did you guys bond with obviously there was players coming in and out all the time. How was there like you go out and play a game of golf or invite?
You know what? I think it was a night out. Like normally, you know, when you get started at a new club or whatever it is, or a new season for that matter, you know, you've got anywhere from 3 to maybe 6 or 7 new faces, I guess. And you know, if you're looking at that number, they say 6 or 7, it's nearly half or a third of a squad. So there's new dynamics with the whole thing, and you lose best mates and you lose, you know, good dudes, whatever. So I remember though, it always took, you come into pre-season and everyone's on that focus on the games, and the first couple of months, you know, you're just monotonous running and all the crap stuff. And then you go, you know, you do a pre-season, you get to go to Port Macquarie or whatever it is that you're going to, and you get lucky enough to go on a night out.
Yeah.
And it's then when people start to relax a little bit more. They're off the pitch. Not necessarily alcohol. It's just that there's no football involved. You know what I mean? The conversation isn't about football. It's something completely different. And that's when you start to really bond with the players. And for example, the first year at Newcastle Jets, Franco Parisi, the most quiet person you'll ever meet initially, obviously when you just meet him, but then when we went out, he not necessarily loud, but he was just in your face and always there and having a great time. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is what you need to do to get to know your players, you know. And then, you know, the Monday after, it's a conversation. It's something that you laugh about and you talk about, and then after that, you're just mates. Like, it is what it is. Everyone becomes, you know, part of the family, so to speak, and it just stems from there.
There's going to be a few old school Franco Parisi fans. So we're very happy to hear that.
Mate,
Who had the best stress sense, and who had the worst stress sense? This can be again. These questions are all over your whole time at the club. Who was the best dressed and who was the worst dressed? This is kind of chuck Greg's teammate the bus.
Yeah, Noel Spencer, we used to take the piss out of him because we felt as though that his wife used to lay out his clothes for him before he came to work. He was always pretty coordinated, like everything sort of matched and everything worked. Like he just didn't slap something on, sort of thing. So we felt as though that his wife laid his clothes out for him. Jason Hoffman was a bit of a stylist even before he went to Melbourne. Mm-hmm. So he definitely started some sort of trend with skinny jeans and even though he's the skinniest guy ever anyway.
I was going to that.
Didn't take much to wear him for skinny jeans, but yeah, I think Joby Wheelhouse was Joby Wheelhouse was a bit of a struggler in his dress sense, mate. I think it didn't matter whose room he was in at the time. He just grabbed whatever was there and put it on and come to training and took the piss out of most of us anyway. So, but yeah, I think those three had a mixture of being the best and worst.
Who had the best taste in music and who had the worst taste in music?
Oh, music. I don't know. I never really questioned anyone's music, to be honest with you. Everyone had their own headphones in or like that, so you didn't really have to listen to anyone else's music. So
no one trying to put thrash metal on the way to games?
Nah, mate, I don't know. No, I don't have an answer for that. No, didn't pay attention to music.
Who drove the best and who drove the worst car?
Oh, I think Tarek had a new car every 3 months. So Tarek definitely had the most cars. And they were always pretty nice, to be fair.
Did he keep them all or was it one?
No, didn't keep them all at the time. Just when he got sick of it, when one of them got dirty, he cashed it in and got another one.
Easier than a car wash.
Yeah. Worst car. Oh, I don't know.
No one driving any paddock bashes?
No, I can't remember the worst cars, to be honest. I'm sure there were. I'm sure I had a couple. But, yeah, mate, I don't know about the worst car. It wasn't something that we paid attention to be honest.
Who spent the most time in front of the mirror?
At Newcastle?
Yeah.
Oh, Nicky Carl.
Well, Nicky
Carl he put moisturiser on. Then he put moisturiser on, and then put some more moisturiser on. And I've never seen a bloke put so much, or a girl for that matter, put so much moisturiser on. So he was definitely someone that spent a time, not necessarily about his face, just his whole body.
All right.
To be fair.
Who was the best player you ever played with, and who was the best player you ever played against?
Or with Paul Logan.
Yep.
Yeah. Just never seen someone do things so easy. And I mean, he was at the end of his career, but no one ever ran past him.
Yep.
Funny enough, he ran past people. So I didn't know how that worked, to be honest, because he wasn't he was not fast. So I was always amazed how, a drop of a shoulder or just, the experience that he had can be so beneficial, to be honest with you. I just remember having a one-on-one, big goals, like even a 40-metre game by 20 metres and a 1v1 with him. And I actually remember thinking, yeah, let's do it. I got you. No problem. I'll just kick it past you and run. Like, that's honestly what I thought.
Yeah.
But
circles.
Did not even, got him down. He stopped me every time. And then when he had it, not that he ran past, but I don't remember tackling him.
Yeah.
Like he still created half a yard to get one away. So he was definitely the best player that I've played with. Played against. Okay. From a player that used to hurt us a lot, and I've probably got to go to Melbourne more so than anything. It wasn't someone that I necessarily came up against in the midfield or anything like that, but Archie Thompson was obviously a freak. I remember playing stopper in Melbourne and trying to muck Sergio Van Dijk and thinking that he was made of bricks. He was never had someone so strong before. Just trying to think of a midfielder that really I just couldn't get anywhere near. Mate, I was probably lucky. Stuart McSharley was on our side, so I didn't have to go up against him. So Carlos Hernandez was a freak.
Yep. As
well. Great to watch and great to play against as well, yeah.
All right. Who was a player you really hated facing amongst the players you played against? There was you'd see him, you see his name on the team sheet and go, oh yeah, okay, this is going to be one of those games. Player you really hated to face. That could be across the whole time.
Yeah, right. Look, I remember, I don't know whether anyone said this about the grand final night, but obviously John Hutchinson created a bit of a stigma.
We hated him too
with Newcastle. Yeah, but I didn't hate him, which is funny. It's and obviously it came from the fans. Like, we knew the fans did. But again, I don't know whether anyone told you, but if you remember the first tackle in the grand final, Mile Jedinak tackled Joel.
Yep.
And about 7 of us ran at John Hutchinson.
Yep.
Right. So it was something that we wanted to do to him, because it's sort of what we wanted. Because he wasn't like that off the pitch. He's a gentle guy. Like, he's a softly spoken dude with no sort of that. But he went to the Mariners and he changed his game a bit. Like, he became a bit of an enforcer and someone that didn't try to put their foot through things. And I just remember thinking, we all said the first tackle, it did not matter whether we got tackled or they got tackled, but he was a target.
Yep.
And we did it. And you've only got to watch the first 8 seconds of the game to notice that there was a top shot of the tackle, and it took everyone about a second to realise this is an opportunity, and boys just started running in from all angles, and we're at him. Tarek grabbed him by the throat in the first 4 seconds. So that is something that I remember too about the grand final. But yeah, I don't think he was something on the team sheet that I necessarily went, oh, we're in for a game. But that just reminded me of that moment, put it that way.
Not even when you saw Kevin Muscat on the team sheet, or
mate, I had some run-ins with him. Oh, look, mate, he's made a career, and if no one can question his career, Jesus Christ, like, the guy's a freak, you know. Like, he was still good at whatever age, and I definitely respect him for the player that he was.
Who were some of the jokers, pranksters that you remember from players that you played with? Who was some of the funny players that you played with? Yeah,
look, Noel Spencer was a character. Joe Willhouse was a character. You know, Topper Stanley, that is definitely someone, not necessarily a prankster, but a funny dude. You know, Nicky Carl tried to put his 2 cents in every now and again, but wasn't very good at it. Far out. Pranks. Look, Bridgie. If you're going to go pranks and going out of their way to do something, it would be Bridgie. I only played with him for a year, but that was enough for me to realise that you couldn't trust the bloke with anything.
As in Michael, not Mark.
As in Michael.
Not Mark.
As in Michael, yes. As in Michael. So, yeah, he was definitely someone. In terms of the prankster, he was it. Yes.
All right. If you didn't grow up and become a footballer, what do you think you would have done instead if this whole football thing hadn't have worked out?
Real estate.
Real estate? Well, you've done well there.
I'll say it now. Oh, look, to be honest, I don't know. That is the truth. But looking at what I do now, and I do enjoy it. I do really enjoy what I do. So I'd like to think that maybe at some point it would have been something that I would have picked up at an early age. So I'll go with that, because I don't have an answer other than that, to be fair.
All right. Well, just before we finish off with a couple of questions that were submitted by fans, we just need to do a prize draw for the Newcastle Jets supporters page. There's a lovely Newcastle Jets fire pit that's been, there was a bunch of people entered into a competition. Now, all we need you to do, Tomo, is to give us, let me just find where the page is. We just need a number between 1 and 87.
86.
86. Congratulations to Sonia Hughes, 86 Sonia Hughes. You're the one who has won the Newcastle Jets fire pit. Thanks very much to the guys from the Newcastle Jets supporters page. Now, an interesting, we'll just finish off with a couple of questions from fans that got submitted. Tomo, one of the blokes you may remember, John Hare, fairly well-known Jet supporter, asked to see if you can recount the story of Nick Theo's missing keys.
Yeah, I still don't know. I still don't know who took them. I still don't know. I just remember Nick pacing around the area for ages, and not being able to find his keys because someone hid his keys. So look, I don't know who took them. I could probably guess who took them, but yeah, right. I remember. I'm pretty sure.
Helen,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I don't, mate. It got to the point where I actually checked my bag in case someone was stitching me up. So, yeah, Nick was a bit of a target. That was funny.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we got the questions about your move to the Heart. Let me just quickly pull up the question. Okay, I've got a question here from Michael Bodie. Let's see your goal against the Mariners in season 1. Had you tried something like it before in training, or was it in the moment and you fluked it?
Definitely the second one. definitely a fluke. No, it was. I often look back. Well, obviously it's come up on games and replays over the years, and I often remember thinking, did I actually look to do it? But it was definitely something that I meant. I don't think it's something that you practice at training for things like that, to be honest. But fluke, I don't know. I reckon I could do it again.
All right. And a question we've been asking various people we've had on, how did the sort of a variation? How are you finding the difference between the Northern New South Wales NPL in comparison to the A-League and the other NPL, or even going back to the NSL competitions? How are you finding, first off, if you want to quickly talk about how the Northern NPL compares in relation to your time playing at in the A-League? How are you finding it?
How am I finding the difference between the club itself,
or just the level of play? And
look, I mean,
why do you think such a difficulty between getting people from the NPL to the A-League? What can we do to bridge that gap, do you think?
Yeah, right. Look, the truth is, I mean, it probably stems from grassroots. Like, I mean, there's been a lot of talk, to be fair, of late with a lot of ex-National League players about just the amount of quality coaching that gets done at a younger age. And, mate, look, the truth is, it is a big gap.
Yeah,
it's a huge gap, and I don't really know how to bridge a gap like that, because they're two completely different entities. Like, one's, you know, they got the money to pay quality players. It's full time. It's your main thing that you're only focusing on. You're fitter because you're training more and you're touching the ball, you know, probably 1,000 times more than what you would at NPL level. So, you know, I think if the A-League players had to go and work on a trade for 8 hours and then go and train, it might be a little bit different. They might not be as fit or as energetic, so to speak. I mean, that would be interesting to see, you know, like the sort of players now that have never worked, sort of thing, so to speak, and actually try and do a trade and then go train of an evening like the NPL players do.
Yeah.
Like, I sort of look at these boys now, like I've been at Maitland for 5 or 6 years, and now at Lambton, and, you know, and I'm now in that same frame of mind, working those sort of hours. But I was lucky. I left school at 17 and went to full time. So I never experienced full-time football with a trade. And I know that's not necessarily the case now, but that first year at Parramatta, a lot of those players were still working. They used to go to work, come to training, go to work. And I'd love to see the players of this day and age to do something like that. And to even see like the NPL players rock up, you know, two nights a week, 3 nights a week, and they're up at 7 and finish at 4:35 and a hard slog, and then go and run around for an hour and 15, 20 minutes. That's tough. Like, that's a tough gig. Like, you know, I've got 2 kids, and just chasing them around's hard enough. You know, like, I'm not on my hands and knees or a brickie or a tradie. I'm in a suit or on a desk. So mine's not, you know, physically demanding sort of thing, but there's some jobs out there that are, and then they're going out and ripping up the NPL, to be fair. So, Yeah, I think it's too hard to sort of compare the two. But the truth of the matter is, like, you know, an NPL side coming up against an A-League side, and the A-League side should win 10 times out of 10. That's the reality.
Another question from Michael Bodie, and we haven't really talked over your international career. Sort of a two-part question. What were your feelings when Pim Verbeek made his infamous comments regarding the quality of the A-League comparing to training in Europe? And was it a surprise when he did call up a majority A-League based squad for the Asian Cup qualifiers? And what was your memories of representing your country?
Okay, so when he made the comment, didn't really care, because, I mean, I hadn't played at Europe. I didn't know the level that Europe trained at. So, in all fairness, yeah, obviously it doesn't sound nice. But, I mean, I looked at it and went, all right, they must be pretty good, which we all know that there's some quality clubs over there and quality players. So, and again, no different. Like, we're talking about level of a Real Madrid or Newcastle Jets. There's no comparison. Do you know what I mean? So, these boys are training week in, week out against the best in the world. So, when he made the comments, to be honest, I didn't really care. Again, when he picked the A-League side, or A-League players to play, I was one of them. I didn't care.
Yeah.
So, that was a great feeling. I didn't think it was insulting or anything like that. He was obviously an experienced coach and had experience European level. So it was an observation on him. It's an opinion. Not many people liked it, but that's what he was like. That's what he was like. He didn't really care who he offended. He said what he said. And I just remember I actually remember having the phone call with him about him saying, I'm going to come. And I said, thank you. He goes, don't thank me. Just you pick because you're doing well and want to see how you go. And I said, I'll thank you again. He goes, no. Like, he wasn't in the mood for, like, you're welcome and those sort of sincerity sort of comments. He just went, you're in, give it a go. If I don't like it, you'll leave.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you played, I think, 8 games?
Nah, 5. 4. And I tell people 8. I tell people 8 though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I do anyway.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is 4. Yeah, 2010. Sorry, I got that mixed up with something else. All right. Let's have a look here. Caleb, we've already asked your question about the Melbourne Heart move. Matt Cameron on Facebook asked, seeing the club now, is there anything you'd personally change players' structure? Are we lacking youth or experience? How obviously you're following the Jets more than anyone else. How are you finding where the club is at the moment compared to what it was like when you were there? What do you think are some improvements that Laurie could be looking at?
I know that when I was at Newcastle, there was not a lot of data on heart rate monitors and all that sort of thing. That sort of came when I was at Melbourne, right? So I was around that time. A lot of clubs started doing it, and that was great because it sort of gave you an indication of, you know, players' maximum heart rate when they started to fatigue, and it was clever, right? Now I think it's gone to potentially new level where a lot of players sort of are getting put in cotton wool probably sooner rather than later, and don't sort of break that barrier of fitness or harden their bodies to be accustomed to those sort of environments where when it's needed. So if anything, it's probably gone too far. And I mean, at 18, 19, if you couldn't run anymore, you were laughed at. You know, now it's like if you're 18, 19 and feeling a bit tired, they give you the next day off.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't remember.
It's not the school of hard knocks anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember being like. And look, and actually, it's funny because Griffo at the Jets now, you know, like he's one of those players that, you know, was a striker but used to run himself into the ground. Like, I just remember seeing images of him up front where he just literally could not lift his legs anymore. You don't get that from a number 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, number 9s are normally, you know, always don't. I guess question as to whether they should be running as much and just scoring goals, but he adapted to the Newcastle Jets and the way they played. And he ran himself into the ground. So when he sort of goes into that sort of environment, and I sort of get other players that mention things, and you talk to other people at other clubs, and you sort of think that it's becoming a bit of a situation where there's too much monitoring and there's too much cotton wool and sit down and have a break. But yeah, I just remember when my dad laughed at me too. So even the generation before us,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that, again, it just seems to be getting softer sort of thing. Like where does it stop? Like next, everyone will be doing virtual training from bed. You know what I mean? So they can put their feet up and don't physically hurt themselves or something. So where does it end? So, yeah, I think there's a point where you've got to get through some sort of body pain, hurt, to be able to get your body accustomed to it. Because 85th minute, you can't sit out the next 5 minutes and come back on, or whatever it is. It is what it is, and I wish I could. I would have been better, but yeah, I just think that there's that fitness. Those players, I remember the days that some of the players were renowned for just being able to just go from 1 minute to the next, and you could probably name a lot. And now it's sort of like, okay, I wonder who those players are. There's fit players,
yeah,
but yeah, you sort of those other players. You just think it didn't matter what position or how hard the game was; they were always running. It didn't matter. So, yeah, I think that would be something that I would look at.
Beautiful. All right.
Possibly.
Mate, it's been absolutely fantastic catching up with you. Really appreciate the time you've given us.
No worries.
It's a hell of a lot more time than we thought we were going to get. So that's okay. That's fantastic. Really appreciate going through the career and the history. It's been great. So really appreciate you being able to give up your time. And if people want to get in contact with you, want to buy a house?
Yep.
You still using
or sell one?
That Twitter account of yours
actually
hasn't been used in quite a while,
mate. I haven't used Twitter in a long time, maybe 6-7 years. So if they need to get a hold of me, mate, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. If they need to sell, if they need to buy, get them to give me a call. Let all the Jets fans know that I can help them out. No problem.
Matt Thompson, agent. We can get the house lined up and then send you to Aussie Home Loans and get the loans sorted out. Absolutely. All right, Tomo, really appreciate having your time tonight. Thanks very much.
No worries. Good on you. Thanks for having me.